Hello, Stan. It's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So great to be here. Thank you, my friend.
Beautiful, and thank you so very much for being here. You see, I truly appreciate you. And you see, Stan, oftentimes I love to thank my guests for two things. And I
Mhm.
do this so often to the point where it has become my anthem. So, firstly, my man, I want to say thank you so very much for investing in yourself. You see, Stan, you are on this platform right now because you did invested in yourself. And oftentimes, my man, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You see, some couple of months back, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside stand, there was this very tall, unattractive mango tree. And I used the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves are all dry. So I just walked
Mhm.
past it and I went my way. But you see, Stan, just recently I was on that same road. And this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree, you see. The mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance. And immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did, and it wowed me because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful green leaves and healthy branches. And not just mangoes now, Stan. I'm talking about ripe mangoes. It was such a lovely experience that day, and I was so excited. Here is my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Stan that you are today, that alone has made it impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you got the request from me to be on the show because I was attracted to the fruit of all that you're doing. Your philosophies, your insights, your work, the impact your work is having, and how you are offering your solutions, my man. This stuff's so beautiful. And just before I sent you that request, I said to myself, I've got to benefit from these beautiful things Stan is doing. And not only me now, because I don't want to look selfish, and even with the audience. And here we are today with the amazing Stan. So thank you so very much for doing that to yourself. Secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite. Because if you had said nope, there was nothing Elisha could do about it. Thanks so much, my man.
Well, thanks for your vision to see mangoes in the world, my friend. So it's a pleasure to be here. My story started 23 years ago with my son having autism and seizures and being told that he'd never recover. And I ended up going to a conference where I saw some science, sort of accidentally, that showed that these kids were sick. And I spent the next 15 months learning every study that existed that showed that these kids are not well. And I learned the language of science, which is a very specific language, and my language of discernment, which is to try to figure out truth in the midst of untruths. And I did it because of a love that was greater than myself. It was a love of my son and not wanting to lose him, egoically in my life that way. And I'm not talking about the autism where people have superpowers. There's discernment. There's a difference. There's the Elon Musk sort of version of autism. And then there's the ones where there's toxins and infections and inflammation and immune dysregulation and nutritional deficiencies. And that's the one I'm talking about, something that holds us back. And what I've learned from my son recovering, and I recovered from irritable bowel and attention problems through that process. And what I learned is, because I bought a school shortly after my son recovered. So one, there's so many remarkable things in my journey, but one was got my son back. He's 25 today, and he's ranked incredibly high in competitive professional
Indeed.
robotics. And he's a handsome boy and he's a great guy and he's very gifted. And you wouldn't see signs of his condition from the past. Learned is that all of us are affected by the same things that were affecting my son. And I'm gonna kind of walk you through a little of that by sharing screens, and I'll keep it as concise as possible for the time for your viewers. So I'm gonna skip a bunch of things. But basically, my thinking that I used to define the science I was going to look at and how to discern, I created here in our research center, it's an AI driven technology now where I can look at things like I had one of our dogs have trachea collapse at 16 and a half years old. I didn't know much about that. So when I searched it, our AI could tell us the possible root causes, kind of a history of what it is, and also as this page is down, the science behind it. And we were able to take care of that when I've had no experience in doing that. So, AI can be used for good. In this case, it is. But when I start looking at root causes for things, asking the question of what is the origin, in traditional world, if you ask about asthma or eczema, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, you hear names and you hear medicines that are used to reduce symptoms. I'm focused on the root causes of things. And what I found in my son, I'm finding in most conditions, most symptom sets, most complaints. So there's really 8 main issues that I've found that lead to most illnesses in the world, period. And the first is emotional trauma. And there's sometimes
Emotional
physical
trauma.
trauma, but trauma is actually the beginning of the body's cellular defense system to start to not it creates a defense, in my view, as if your arm's going to get ripped out by a tiger. So your body doesn't know the difference between, let's say, my mother dying when I was a child and a tiger chasing me. And when it's in that mode, it's only supposed to be in it for a short period of time. But trauma in our world today is something we carry with us. And something I was carrying with us myself for a long time was my grief of my mother dying of cancer. And once what I see, because I look at the microscope, I look at blood in a microscope, and I see how trauma actually affects the cells. So trauma is a main cause of illness. And in our world today, when you watch the news and the media, I believe this is set up to keep us unwell. And the other is cellular interference. I see technology and chronic infection that shows up, and I'll show some examples. Toxins that include metals and pesticides, infections that include bacterial mold, and it's interesting. I put pesticides here. Yeah, okay, good. Infections, bacterial mold, and parasites. Believe it or not, there's a lot of technology that you can see in the blood. And I say technology, it looks non-natural to me. So I'll call it technology, and forgive my words. And everyone should use this as this is my perspective. I don't deem to know myself to know everything. This is just my experience and perspective that I'm sharing with you. And I want you to discern for yourself, of course, and you should always be discerning for yourself what's true, what's not, what's true for you. So I see immune overwhelm, I call it. Some people could call that autoimmunity, but the immune system being overwhelmed when it's only supposed to deal with things for a short period of time. I see nutritional issues in the form of deficiencies, mistakes where people are feeding infections in their body that they can't get rid of, hydration issues, and gastrointestinal disturbance. That's as like a subcategory of 7. And 8 is energy system issues. And the mitochondria, the cells that create energy. Krebs cycle issues is the biology of how to turn nutrients into energy. Electromagnetic deficiency, the body is actually very electrical. Try moving your hand without any electricity going through you. So there is a deficiency there, and a light energy deficiency. Light is extremely important. So these are the just 8 areas that I find just about every condition, even tracheal collapse in my dog Taffy is related to that. And where is this coming from? We're giving up our health decisions to institutions. That's the number one thing, meaning that the love that you'll get the most has to be from yourself. And if you don't have a love for yourself, we generally hand things over to other people that don't have as much love for us. That's a big problem. 2 is the lack of discernment and being able to learn and weigh evidence. It's actually very simple. Learning is very simple. Taking responsibility for your own decision making is very simple, but we give it away in this busy world. The third thing that I see on where these things come from is an obsession with aluminum. Aluminum is something that you find in the first vaccine and all vaccines that are given to children. Almost all, anyway. It's considered an adjuvant, but aluminum salts blocks the mitochondria. There's a lot of science that's coming out about this. It is the single best way to take energy from your mitochondria cells for your body is to put aluminum salts in, because it blocks the copper inside the body, and copper is needed. It's almost like, remember, like I don't know if this is in Africa, but there are certain batteries that are called the copper top batteries, right? That's a brand. You need copper in order to be able to process your energy. This is a
Yeah.
fast way to take it out. Chemicals in medicine, there's a lot of chemicals that are in traditional medicine. There's a lot of great products from Africa. We actually use certain roots from Africa, probably not that far away from you, actually, that are incredible healing modalities. And there's a lot from the Amazon. A lot of Western medicine, for example, 70%, the studies show 70% of Western medicine today was either directly from or influenced by remedies from the Amazon. And the history has been mainly erased about that. But part of what we do is we've gone back and look at older remedies, take a look at original remedies and use them for root causes, not for symptom relief. And this is the type of research that we're doing here. And then chemicals and pesticides too. Antibiotic use. Antibiotics is basically a fungus. So you're putting that in the body. The body does not deal with fungus very well. So there's long-term effects when you have that. Chemtrails. Chemtrails are a very real thing. They've been looked at as conspiracy theory for a long time, but there's so much evidence today that governments are giving out showing that they're doing that for weather modification. But there's a lot of things in those trails that take away the energy systems inside the human, and it's crazy and it's unknown. I'd say we can't know exactly why, but it does not seem like for good reasons. In the water, there's a lot of technology and chemicals in the water, and I'll show you some of them.
Really?
In the food, it's in water. And I don't know, I'd love to see water, let's say from your town and take a look at it, but I've looked at water people have brought from around the world. I've got water that came in from China. I've got water that came in from Italy, and all of it seems to have this technology in it. And we know how to take it out of the water. We know, well, it's actually killing it in the water, and also or turning it off in people. We see great health improvements just by taking this technology and disabling it. So food in the United States, I don't know how it is in Africa, but we have 10,000 approved food additives here. In Europe, it's 300. So that means there's 9,000, 700 food additives in the United States that are banned in Europe. So just eating food here is pretty crazy for especially anything that has to do with preserving or preparing foods for humans to eat in the United States. Much of it is toxic. We also have an obsession with complex carbs and starches, rice and pasta, milk and wheat. These things are very undigestible to humans, and they're very good food for bacteria and fungus. And we have this agenda for some reason going on to keep humans small, to keep us from thinking, to keep us from being in our full selves. And then there's a lot of whitewashing in science, in non-Western modalities. There's so much power in cultural healing that goes back pre-Western medicine. There's so many things. We have technologies here that are electrical from the 1800s that are very powerful and have incredible results, and you just don't see that today. So we've had to really look all over the place for these things. And I just want to show you a couple other things. There's a lot more I could say about this, and maybe we should do more in another podcast. But I'm going to show you a few examples. This was a Native American. His name is Standing Bear. He had 5 heart attacks. He was actually taken from the hospital as a child, stolen by, according to his story, stolen by the government and put into an orphanage where they ran experiments on him. This is what his blood looked like. You may not understand what blood's supposed to look like, but you should probably be able to look at this and go, there's something wrong. All the white is this technology I'm talking about, or some people deem it to be parasites. Excuse me.
Sorry.
But this is not how it's supposed to be. And this is the blood of someone that's generally very sick. And this is what it looked like, in just a few days. And then we have nasal sprays, for example, that help regulate the brain for people that have gut issues and ADHD. This is an example of the one on the left. The red and the yellow shows the abnormal part of the brain. The one to the right is minutes after we've used it. This is the blood of someone that described themselves as having leukemia. We don't diagnose anything and we don't treat anything here. We just help people become their best. But this was a nurse. She couldn't walk upstairs very well. The circles to the right, these white things are the white blood, or the red blood cells. The rest of this seems to be what she would deem as cells that are leukemia-like, or ones that are blood cancer. Now we can't know, but that's exactly what it looks like. And AI and Google will tell you something similar. I just have to be careful of my language. So, and this was afterwards. So these you see beautiful cells that are on the screen. This is only a few days of work. This is what Alzheimer's looks like, where they look like peas crunched together from a can. There's no puffiness to each cell. They just look stacked. This is a 76-year-old that was diagnosed, not by us, and this was 4 hours later. This is what her cells look like. And the symptoms that she had when
Wow.
she was diagnosed, she said she didn't have anymore. And this is what she looks like as she's traveling. She's 78 years old now. She's been fine ever since. She's an artist. She loves to travel. I've got lots of different things around this too that I can show you. But for now, I'll pause there and I'll go back to you. I think I kind of lost the screen where you're on. So let me see if I can find that. But I'll pause there because of time constraints. I wanted to honor the time that we have. And you can, if you'd like, you can talk to me about questions or guide me as to what you'd like to hear for your audience.
I tell you, my man, this has been so, so interesting and eye-opening. Many of the things you shared, I really have no knowledge as to those things. So thank you so
That's
very
okay.
much for sharing that. So
Of
I've got
course.
just two questions for you. All right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so let us talk about ancient civilizations, or should I say, what
Okay.
did ancient civilizations know about Earth that we lost?
Say it again because you cut out. I heard ancient civilizations. What's your
Yeah,
question? Sorry.
yeah. So I said, what did ancient civilizations know about Earth that we lost?
That's really good. I think the thing that I would say is I'm very passionate about learning about the past, very passionate about learning what's best for humans in general. And one of the things that I think we really lost is our ability to think for ourselves and think about what's best for humanity. In at least in ancient civilization, there were tribes, often, 100 or so people at a time that would build community together. We lost that. In my neighborhood, I know a few people. When I grew up, I knew more. So we knew mostly everyone in the neighborhood, and we'd be concerned about our neighbors, and we'd have to troubleshoot for ourselves. And as children, we'd have to go out and find things to do rather than have a phone put in front of us. So I think the big thing is we've lost our ability to think and be creative and to solve problems like our life depended on it. And I had to learn that again because of the love of my son, because that was taken from me. And it was great. As far as the big picture, it was what had to happen. And I think that without that type of push, we don't stretch. We get busy doing our jobs and doing the normal things, and we don't grow and we don't realize it because we're doing our job, we're paying our bills. But what are we doing for our own learning, for our own troubleshooting, for our own discernment? What are we doing to grow and share our love of people, to help humanity? I think that is a big thing that's missing. So I'll summarize it and say I think we're missing discernment, the ability to think and weigh evidence and decide what's true and what's not. We've let that go. And the second thing is I just think that we are we're really good at complaining. And I say we, like, I'm looking at
True.
social media, we're very good at complaining. And I watch the energy it takes and time it takes to complain. If that's put into how to make things better, how to solve a problem, how to grow our own skills and do things on our own. If we were able to do that with the same energy that we're using for hate or judgment or separation, I think that would be like my one wish would be if we can turn away from that and turn towards discernment and accountability and helping humans. Because I don't know how it happened, but I love humans. I love people, and I want to see them at their best. And that's kind of how I spend my day. I think it's natural and normal, and I don't find a lot of people doing that. I would like, and
Yeah,
I think that's more in ancient culture. I love your question, and I don't see it as much today, unfortunately. So that's my answer to that.
I agree, my man, and that's so true. We need to become more solution oriented. I got that. So, to bring this to an end, Stan, what would you like
Yes,
to
sir.
leave? Yeah, what would you like to leave the audience with like a final thought. And to those
Yes.
folks who like to reach out to you, learn more about these amazing stuff you've just shared with us, or even ask you questions, how can that be possible?
Great. The final thought that I would say is it doesn't matter what's going on in your life. I mean, it matters to the point of there is a gift in it. Anything that's happened to you, anything you consider trauma is, in my view, a gift from God that you haven't opened yet. And it doesn't look like it. I'll speak for me. The worst thing that happened to me was my mother dying when I was young. And I didn't think I'd be able to live without her. She was my one connection to unconditional love that I had felt. And what I learned is if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be with you today. And I wouldn't be doing the work that I'm doing if my son didn't get sick. And when you come to understand that all things can lead to an equal or better thing, when you open that gift, when you take action, life changes and you deserve to be your best. You deserve to heal from the things that you have. And there are simple and easy ways to do it. If it's not easy, it's not true. That's one of my quotes. So I would just say, you deserve to heal. It is easier than you think. It's in places you haven't looked yet. It's in your blind spots. And I invite you to learn more. And to answer your other question, how do people find us? There's two places. One, if you want to see hundreds of testimonies of people that have gone through the work here, it's Stan's Recoveries. It's plural. stansrecoveries.com. And if you want to connect with us, you can go to Stan's Links. That's STANSLINKS, stanslinks.com. So it's Stan's Recoveries, Stan's RECOVERIES.com or stanslinks.com. And I appreciate
Beautiful.
you very, very much, Elisha, very much, my friend. Thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank you too. So that's going to be the end of the show, Stan. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing this important stuff with us. It means a whole lot, my man. Thank you.
It's truly, truly my pleasure, and it's a pleasure to be with somebody that's helping other people, my friend. So thank you for doing the work that you're doing on the